Salute, my Quickclassics friends. Greetings on this Thursday, August the 19th, 2021. If you like the content, please click a like, subscribe, and share, as it does help the channel. And today I thought we would take a look at Alexander the Great and his invasion of Afghanistan. Now, of course, Afghanistan is in the news right now because of the hasty retreat of not just the United States but coalition forces from Afghanistan. So I thought that it would be pertinent to give you some historical perspective on not just Afghanistan but the invasion of Afghanistan. Now, historically, one of the epithets for Afghanistan has been the place where empires go to die, and there's some truth to that. And certainly Alexander contributed a chapter to that story. Now, most of you tuning in who have interest in the ancient world have some general idea about who Alexander the Great was, the son of Philip II of Macedon. Once Macedonia took control of the Greek world, they became its political leaders and, of course, were thoroughly Hellenized. Alexander himself had no less a tutor than Aristotle. So in terms of culture, he was thoroughly Hellenized. But of course, Alexander the Great was known for this empire that he created, which had originally been the vision of his father, across not only the known Greek world, but also well into Asia, all the way to Afghanistan and India. So Alexander not only left the legacy of Hellenism in all these places, but in 330 BC, he begins an invasion of what today is Afghanistan. And at the time, it was part of the Persian Empire. It constituted the easternmost satrapies of the Persian Empire, and this was just militarily, strategically speaking, was certainly problematic. It's the same kind of problem that many powers run into in attempts to invade and absorb Afghanistan, and that is the rugged, both desert and mountainous terrain. So it is quite uneven and foreboding. Um, and its strategic significance, of course, is because it's a crossroads in Asia. Historically has been, and in later years, certainly we know there's a lot of mineral value in Afghanistan as well. And so Alexander and his forces also undertake an invasion of India into the Indus River Valley through the Khyber Pass about the same time. Now, what's interesting here is that Alexander is able to defeat the indigenous people, and he does establish a satrap here under a contingent of the Greek army, the Ionians. And so I suppose you could possibly argue that it was part of the Greek Empire, part of Alexander's empire, the Macedonian Empire more specifically, for a while, but not for long. In the wake of Alexander's death, his generals take over the territory, the Ptolemies, the Seleucids, the various dynasties, etc., etc. Well, the Bactrians, as they become known, Bactria is what generally Afghanistan was called at the time. The Bactrians actually revolt against the Seleucids and defeat them, and they're so far out on the periphery of the empire that no attempt is made to retake it or reabsorb it. It's a fascinating study in and of its own self because they retain a lot of Hellenism. The Greek language was still spoken there. Several sites have been excavated that reveal things like amphitheaters and Temenoi and temples and a lot of the kinds of structures you would associate with the Greek polis. Um, um, Even some linguistic remnants. The So much so that the word that the Afghans use to this day for Greek is Ionoi, which is just the Ionian, the plural for Ionian in Greek. So that's kind of interesting. The kukri knife that the Gurkha warriors use is also thought to have been with its forward slanting blade, also thought to have been a takeoff of one of the kinds of swords that the Macedonian army used at the time. But the long and short of it is that the Bactrians maintained this Greek culture in Asia for 3 centuries after um, the death of Alexander, and it's not until the 1st century AD that um, the Kushites actually defeat them. And even after that, there's a certain amount of Greek culture, Hellenic culture that's maintained, including bits and pieces of language. In fact, the Kushites adopt uh, a good bit of the Greek language, and there are place names that retain Alexander's legacy. There was an Alexandria in Bactria, and Kandahar is actually a sort of contraction of the um, Arabic designation for Alexander, Iskander. So Kandahar, you can see the phonetic similarity there. But at the end of the day, it was not a place that was easily held because of its remoteness by outside powers. This is evinced by the fact that not only the Greeks but the Persians tried to hold on to it. Genghis Khan tried to hold on to it. As I said, the Kushites, the eventually powers like the Caliphate out of Baghdad tried to absorb it unsuccessfully. The Mughal Empire, the Sikhs, the uh, the British Empire, the Soviets, and of course, most recently, the coalition forces, the NATO forces. Um, so there's some truth to this disproportionate amount of energy that's expended in trying to take, hold, and absorb Afghanistan, and the disproportionate dividends of failure. So I thought that it would be a good idea to put some classical perspective on Afghanistan and telling Alexander's story in relation to Afghanistan. So I hope that this was helpful, and we'll see you soon on Quick Classics.